What is up, y'all? We are here for our Saturday night secret sermon. This is our Secret Teachings of Jesus series where we are studying out of the Gnostic Gospels. This section we are working through the Nag Hammadi scriptures, and we've been in the Gospel of Philip for quite some time. And sometimes Gospels are set up to be sort of like you're reading a scene and things are playing out in a scene. But in the Gospel of Philip, it's actually like these portions, they're isolated portions of kind of cryptic text. The text is very esoteric, it's very symbolic, and it's like these isolated ideas to sort of like meditate on and pontificate with. And so the nature of this work is unclear to archaeologists and theologians, as far as like if this was a writer's notebook and these were the notes that were found, or if these were complete and presented this way, the way that they are. Like each piece is seemingly unrelated to the other, but yeah, you just get this one kind of paragraph that has so much in it though. And I think that's what makes it so perfect, because just isolating the small idea by itself and letting yourself go deep into pondering all the layers of the symbolism and the implication, and everything that opens up. It's so interesting. And so Philip is like taking many of the things that Jesus said and talked about, and then like just taking those concepts, because there were so many different parables and metaphors and symbols and ways that Jesus would talk about things, that he just brought them here and took each piece and laid it out. And so that's why it does kind of seem like someone's notes that they took, write down, this and this, and then maybe flesh that out later. But I think that just the act of meditating on these concepts just with yourself is like its own kind of profound thing. So I've been really loving the Gospel of Philip. We only have a few more portions left before we're finished with the Gospel of Philip. And if you've been a fan of this playlist for a long time, we've been in the Gospel of Philip for like a year and a half, 2 years now. So it's a big moment here, coming to the last few portions of this gospel. But it has been so much fun spending time in it, and it's honestly inspired me to do more work, or want to do more work around the Gospels, and maybe even eventually taking the Gospel of Philip and writing my own commentary on each portion, and maybe publishing the commentary. So who knows, but it's been super inspiring, and I've really loved it. Okay, so this week's portion is a doozy. So what happens is I come in from work and I open up, and a portion will jump out at me, and I'll start getting downloads and insights and things. And then I'll just go ahead and start the camera. And I haven't read these before. This is just, I had always wanted to read the Gnostic Gospels. I was curious, and I didn't know when I'd really make a practice of doing it and following through. So I thought if we made this a thing that we did together, then I would do it and we could share it together. And it's just we're reading, nice little book, nighttime, bedtime, story time together. Except it's the Gospels. So let's get into this. I would just like to give that preface so that you guys know I'm not a scholarly theologian or anything. Do your own research, but we're just having a good time. We're just doing this because we're interested. And hopefully this whets your appetite and you want to go deeper into scriptures and Gospels yourself. All right, with no further ado, let's get started. This portion is a dense one. So a lot was coming to me as I was reading it, but sometimes it's like turns your mind into knots and it's hard to articulate. So hopefully, I pray that the thoughts come out with clarity and I can communicate what I can feel coming up. Sometimes, like, I can have understanding in my mind and like revelation and stuff, but sometimes then it's hard to translate that into words to explain to outside of my brain. So all right, this is going to be one of those times where it's going to be hard. Okay, so creating and procreating. There is the child of humanity, and there is the child of humanity. The child of humanity is the Lord, and the child of humanity is the one who creates through the child of humanity. The child of humanity received from God the ability to create. He can also procreate. One who has received the ability to create is a creature. And one who has received the ability to procreate is an offspring. One who creates cannot procreate, but one who procreates can create. One who creates is said to procreate, but the offspring are really creatures, because these offspring are not children of procreation, but the works of procreation. One who creates works openly and is visible. One who procreates does so secretly and is hidden, for one who procreates is beyond every image. So then one who creates does so openly, and one who procreates produces offspring secretly. See what I mean about this being a dense one? Okay, I'm sitting on my foot and it's already falling asleep. Okay, so I'm going to read this one more time through, and then we'll unpack it line for line, and we'll just take it bit by bit. Okay, there is the child of humanity, and there is the child of humanity. The child of humanity is the Lord, and the child of humanity is the one who creates through the child of humanity. The child of humanity received from God the ability to create. He can also procreate. One who has received the ability to create is a creature. And one who has received the ability to procreate is an offspring. One who creates cannot procreate, but one who procreates can create. One who creates is said to procreate, but the offspring are really creatures, because these offspring are not children of procreation, but works of creation. One who creates works openly and is visible. One who creates works openly and is visible. One who procreates does so secretly and is hidden. For one who procreates is beyond every image. So then one who creates does so openly, and one who procreates produces offspring secretly. You know, it's funny, I was wrestling against this passage this time, because usually what happens is I'll have a passage stand out and I don't argue, and this is the same in my readings. Like, I don't argue with spirit, I just trust what I'm getting. and I just do what I'm told. But this week I really wanted to do this other passage that was only a couple of sentences and seemed a lot more straightforward. But this one just it wouldn't leave me alone. And I wanted to think about it more through the week. But it wanted to be today. And it makes sense because last week we were talking about the passage Pure Marriage. And I think that set us up nicely to understand the portion where it talks about procreating in secret. Gives us a good foundation, and it wouldn't be crazy if you needed or wanted to go back and watch that other episode again, like from last week, Pure Marriage, having that in mind for this particular passage. Okay, so there is the child of humanity, and there is the child of humanity. The child of humanity is the Lord, right? What did they call Jesus? In the prophecies that were in the Old Testament foreshadowing the coming of Jesus, they called Jesus Son of Man. Maybe the prophet Daniel was where that was stated, where he was called the Son of Man. And it was a subversive title too, because foreshadowing again ahead of time, during that time that Jesus would be doing his ministry as the Son of Man. Caesar at that time gave himself the title Son of God. So it was perfect poetic irony and justice that Jesus, the Son of God, would have the title Son of Man in the face of Caesar, who is obviously a son of man, but gave himself the title Son of God. I always love knowing that. Oh my gosh, my air conditioner I'm freezing, but I don't want to mess with it because it's been so hot outside. It's always hot upstairs too. Okay, so Jesus is the child of humanity, is the Lord, the Son of Man, right? And the child of humanity is one who creates through the child of humanity. Well, what does the Bible say? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, right? When we do things out of love, right? And in the consciousness of love and giving and sharing in the name of Christ, that act is empowered and blessed and fruitful. But this is not doing whatever I want and putting that label on it. It has to be true. It has to be good. So when you're doing good things and you're being a channel of light for the Creator in the name of Christ, that strengthens you, that empowers your actions. So there is the child of humanity, and then there is the child of humanity. The child of humanity is the Lord, and the child of humanity is the one who creates through the child of humanity. So one who creates through Christ, one who is transformed and produces the fruits of the Spirit in Christ, right? That is creating. One who creates in Christ is someone who then not only that does good works and they are fruitful on the inside within themselves, but then that in turn turns them into a more sharing person who then just starts doing good works out in the world. And then your good works and your legacy and the things that you share and pass on, the light you pass on to others, become the children that you bear and spread out in the world for others. So the child of humanity is the Lord, and the child of humanity is the one who creates through the child of humanity. Creates a light in others to pursue their own connection with the Creator, with God. One who ignites a light in someone else to help them find their talent or direction or purpose. could be a light that you ignite in someone else to teach them how to love themselves or have self-esteem. Maybe they've never had that before. Help them find healing, right? But when we bring light and encouragement and life to others, it is the creation. We are creating in the image of God. We are creating life in that. Okay, one who creates through the child of humanity. And that is, and that also includes the good works. When we can activate the Christ within us to start to change those parts of ourselves that are selfish and victimized and haughty and judgmental and critical and all of those aspects, it's like we sacrifice those parts of our flesh to become more like Christ, more unconditionally loving and sharing and in alignment with the image of God, in the image of the Creator, with wisdom and understanding and compassion, and in a total place of wholeness and unity within, so much so that we can channel the light in such an unencumbered way that creates acts of miracles, that we can do wonders, and that we can help heal the sick and free the imprisoned and help the blind to see and help the deaf to hear and help the lame to walk. And these can be figurative, right? For helping people see, right? See the light, hear the truth, to be able to walk when they were lame, meaning help them be functional in life when they were working against themselves and self-sabotaging, right? Be fruitful and functional in the world. So these creations and these fruits and these miracles, and I mean, and the more faith that we have, the more willing and open a vessel that we are. I mean, Jesus said that we would do the things that he did and even greater, so we can channel miracles through our vessel. We're not doing them through our own power. We're just channels. We're just tubes, right? We're antennas bringing it through into the physical. But if we're, a refined enough channel and we have our certainty, and there is a moment where God wants to use us in a certain way or needs to use us in a certain way, then yes, it's perfectly reasonable and possible to have a miracle performed through you, right? Does it happen often? There's probably a lot more miracles happening than we realize. We just don't recognize them. We think that they're always going to look like something grandiose and out of this world and larger than life. Sometimes they're happening behind the scenes and we never see it. Sometimes they're subtle, right? Sometimes it is crazy and we're just so numb to the carnage that we don't even notice. Like, how many times have you nearly changed lanes on the interstate and nearly been taken out by like a tractor trailer truck? And then you're like, oh my God. And then you're just like, moments later, it's just like, all right, back to the grind. It's just like, you just survived like, near death. And we're just like, oh yeah, it was a miracle, right? So there is the child of humanity, and there is the child of the child of humanity. The child of humanity is the Lord, and the child of humanity is the one who creates through the Lord. The child of humanity received from God the ability to create. So I think that there is layers here. It's like kind of like those nesting dolls, Russian nesting doll layers. here it's talking about Jesus was given the ability to create. So the child of humanity received from God the ability to create. So Jesus received from God the authority and the power to come here and perform miracles and wonders and signs. However, also on a layer, like whereas Jesus is the direct creation, like the creature that God created, he's the Son of God, but he didn't have him physically. He had to like have him by proxy through Mary. So 1 degree from Kevin Bacon, then we have us. We're the procreation of the creation, like the creation being Adam and Eve. They were creatures created. We are the descendants of those original creature creations. The child of humanity received the ability to create. So Jesus came with full package activated, right? He had the full authority, full power, full awakening, fully realized, whole connection to God, direct connection, could create. We have the ability to create, but it has to be activated. And so like it's like manifestation. Like we can, as divine and human beings, we're given the abilities dormant within us to be manifestors, to be creators, to be healers, to be miracle workers. But those parts of our soul are dormant until we do the work required to activate those parts of ourselves, to bring them online, to put the applications in, you know, in order to do those things, right? If you have a phone, it has the capacity to say like edit video, but you need to like get an app with a video editor on it. You know, that might be a bad example, but you know what I'm saying? Like the phone has a lot of potential, but you have to add apps to it. So too are we. We have the potential to be fully loaded, all the apps, healing, miracles, part the Red Sea. It's like we can channel it through us. But that has to be, it comes through when we've elevated our soul through the work, through tikkun correction, through our healing and all of that, and our awakening and our elevation. Then we have extra like layers or vestments of light that we receive, extra layers of our soul that come down. There's different layers of the soul, and we receive them at different times or by way of earning those vestments of light, those extra soul upgrades, so to speak. So higher level of souls have greater abilities, greater capacities. So Jesus was the highest level of a human soul. So he was able to resurrect himself after being dead, right? And so when he said, you can break this temple apart and not one rock will be left standing, and I will bring it back together, and I will rebuild this temple in 3 days. You watch me. And they're like, it's taken us years to build this temple. He's like, it took me 33 years to build this temple, huh? He's talking about this temple, bitch. Like, you're going to break this down. You're going to tear me apart. There's not going to be anything left of me. That's how much I want to reveal the power of God to you, the power of my Father. You're going to tear me apart. That way no one can ever say, no one's surviving this. No one's coming back from this. There was nothing left of him. And he pulled himself back together and resurrected, right? So, where are we? There is a child of humanity, and there is the child of humanity. The child of humanity is the Lord, and the child of the child of humanity is one who creates through the child of humanity, creates through the Lord, creates through the Christ. The child of humanity received from God the ability to create. He can also procreate. So Jesus, being both divine and human when he came here for his human incarnation, was not only a creature, but he was also an offspring. So Adam and Eve, the original souls of all mankind, were created in the light realm. It wasn't here in the material world yet. And so they were direct creations from God. God did not birth them. He built and made them and created them out of like the clay of the ground. When they started giving birth to human beings, like when they were created, they were in the light realm. They were souls and spirits. But it was only after the fall that they separated from having exact affinity with the light of the Creator, and it caused them to have flesh suits on. So that created the material world at that point. That's what separated us from that wholeness, right? So then after that, that's when we started having childbirth and souls were born into flesh bodies. And so offspring began. Well, Jesus, his soul came from a higher realm than where our souls come from where Adam and Eve come from. Human beings that are purely human beings have souls that come from this like one realm, where Jesus's soul, his spirit, came from the upper realms, where the Father God is in it, in his most like abstract state. The Father, the Mother, and then the all that is, the supernal triad up there. So Jesus's soul came from a higher place that wasn't just a human soul. And he was birthed through the Barbelow, which is a creature who can procreate without, like on their own, like without another person. So the power of the Barbelow, if I'm saying this correctly, was placed into Mary, the Virgin Mary, Mary the Mother. Like before they were all born, like Jesus and God were like getting together and planning this and orchestrating this with the hierarchy and council of soul directors and coordinators. And Jesus knew he was coming here for a specific purpose. He knew he needed like specific, vessels around him. So he took power from the Barbelow, which can give birth on its own, and put it into Mary, so she would have the spiritual power and capacity to be the Virgin Mother. And then he took some of his own power from where he came from and used some of it to distribute into the 12 souls that would be his disciples. They were chosen before they were born, and they were given some of Jesus's power because he knew that he would need them to carry on and basically begin the Christianity, begin the ministry, because he knew he would only have a very limited amount of time, and then they would have to take over from there, and he knew they would be persecuted, so they would need his power, because they would need to be able to do miracles and all of that stuff too. So going back to the creation, right? So Jesus was kind of a both. He was a creature, like a creation, but he was also birthed, and he was a procreation. So when Jesus was birthed through, he was not only divine, but he was also divine and human, which gave him the ultimate power of the universe. Because, like, for instance, angels, they're technically pure beings than us, but we're higher than them. We are more like on the stature, like we're higher up than angels. We're more important than them. Not, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but like on a hierarchy level, because they're programmed. They're almost like robots. Like they're directed for a very specific cause, and they, in many cases, don't deviate. There's different types of angels, but they have a very specific purpose that they fulfill, and they do a job, and they're like a force of nature working. Whereas we're not a one-track mind. We have free will. We have our lower nature that's tempted into the body consciousness, the desire to be lazy, the desire to be selfish, the desire to win at all costs, the desire to hump the leg of another. You know what I mean? Like we have this like awful side of us that's like really the dominant influence, and for good reason, because it's our instincts to want to keep the flesh bag going, right? But then we also have this eternal spirit that we don't fully remember. And so we're working against this like major influence that wants to do all the wrong things. But we also have the spirit within us that's guiding us, saying, hey, you have the choice to go in this direction, but you have to rise above the temptation that wants to drag you into just the earthly material realm of that the devil is essentially in charge of. You know, the devil has freedom to run loose in, you know. And so, yes, so the fact that Jesus came here and donned the lower aspect of the lowly human is actually the thing that made him the most all-powerful being in the universe, because he chose to practice restriction from his complete divinity and be limited and restricted, and actually have to overcome challenges from the restrictions of the physical threats of okay, I had 3 years to do this, and now time's up. Like, I'm being executed. This is it. You know, we knew it was going to be, you know, a short amount of time, right? He even had these limitations here, even as the Messiah, right? So when we come here as souls, the upper realms are like, wow, everybody's dying to get down here, because when you have to go through life in the flesh suit, when you're tempted to do all the wrong things, and it's usually a lot harder to do the right thing, and you have the option, and you overcome, and you rise above, and you choose the light, and you choose the right thing, you've got all kinds of like fireworks going off in the upper realms. That's elevating your soul. That's awakening all these parts of you. It's like when you're in Mario and he does something crazy and he gets like all the coins, and it's like all the up levels suddenly, and you're like, oh my God, I'm Super Mario. Like, it's a big deal, right? So Jesus came here and was both a creation, a creature, but he was also able to create himself. But he was also a human being who could theoretically procreate, right? Whether he did or didn't, it's who knows the ultimate answer to that. There's speculation, I guess, that there's possibility. To me, it's never mattered either way. I mean, it would be awesome. I mean, mostly I'm like, man, it would be cool if I was the descendant of Jesus. But that's about it. You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't change my beliefs or opinions about him either way, I don't think. So the child of humanity received from God the ability to create. He can also procreate. Now, we are also the child of humanity. We're also children of God. And so in a way, like 1 degree of Kevin Bacon over from Jesus, we're like this other like example or version or layer or level of that child of humanity, right? And so we too have abilities like Jesus that just aren't awakened yet, but they can be activated. We can create, we can And that, the little ways we do it, we learn how to kind of hone in our manifesting skills. It's like we're always kind of manifesting. It's like driving. It's like being in a car that's always driving, whether or not you like it or not. And so it's like you can either take the wheel and learn to drive, or the car is just going to go crazy, right? So that's the way manifesting works. It's like we have these like, we're magnetic and we're sending out frequencies. And so we're drawing things in and manifesting all the time. And if we don't know what we're doing, then that kind of gets chaotic. But when we start to realize, oh, there's a system here, there's a formula, or like scientific laws, like spiritual laws, I can understand and live within, and then have predictable results, or semi-predictable at least. Some kind of way I can participate in the process and at least cut back on the chaos, So we can procreate and we can create. One who has received the ability to create is a creature. And one who has received the ability to procreate is an offspring. So right here, okay, so I don't want to lose this thought. So one who has received the ability to create is a creature. Now think about this. When we activate those parts of our souls, or when those parts of our souls become activated so that we can too create, that is byproduct of being created ourselves. So when we say, you know what, Jesus, God, help me be a new person. Help me awaken my soul. Help me correct my ego. Help me correct my tikkun and do the inner work. Please help me. So then we've activated that, and God and Jesus, the creators, go to work on us, and we become shaped like balls of clay. They mold us into beautiful, worthy, sturdy vessels, right? That can channel and hold the light. This is so crazy. I'm having deja vu because this like insight was coming to me on my jog, but it was unrelated or unattached to this yet. It's interesting. No time and space, just whatever. It's all in the now. So when we allow ourselves and we devote ourselves to the discipline of becoming more like the Creator, right? Becoming more like the image of God, becoming more like Jesus, becoming more like Christ-like, we volunteer ourselves like the clay, and then the master starts to mold and refine us and make us into a new creation, a new creature. We're born again, we're recreated. Remix. Okay, so one who creates is said to procreate. No, hold on. Okay, one who creates cannot procreate. One who has received the ability to create is a creature. So it's like if you've received the ability to do the works, right? To create miracles and things, then that is because God has worked on you and given you that next level of the soul. When we are able to do like manifest things, right? It's usually on the other side of having some great healing or a big forgiveness or something that we've let go or worked through. And as a result, that energy is then transformed into something else that's revealed, right? It opens a seed and reveals light through that. So one who has received the ability to create is a creature. So again, we have these abilities given to us to create our own reality and to choose for ourselves and to do good works and to, possibly have gifts of healing and things like that, or to manifest and to do good things. And so it's like those are a byproduct of God doing the transformational work in us. And that's like evidence of those layers of the soul, those extra layers of light coming in and coming online and being activated. So the one who has received the ability to create is a creature, and one who has received the ability to procreate is an offspring. Now, figuratively speaking, it's like when we produce fruit, like the fruits of the spirit from, the work that we do and healing and things. Or when we put our hand to creating something that will reveal light in the world, or when we do sharing acts, it's like creating offspring. That's like creating children. It's spreading life and light into the world. So one who creates is said to procreate. So hold on, one who creates. One who has received the ability to create is a creature, and one who has received the ability to procreate is an offspring. So on a human level, like if we have received the ability to procreate, we're an offspring, we're a child of man, right? But the good works that we've done the fact that we can show that we've done works, that we've been fruitful, that we have these like virtues and characteristics coming through, and we've done acts of goodness for others, and we do acts of sharing of others, that marks us as a child of God, a creation of God, someone who's been born again in spirit through God the Father, not just God the flesh, Dad the flesh. Right? We're born again of the Father in heaven, doing good works and good deeds of sharing and healing and miracles, right? And wonders. Whereas a child just born of the Father is a procreator. We can have children, but we're just in that material consciousness, that material flesh. We're just doing these mundane things that don't have eternal value, eternal quality. We're doing things that have a shelf life. We're going to work. We're trying to do something big in our career and, plop out 2.5 kids and have a fence and a dog. But we don't have the kingdom of heaven beyond that, right? It's just limited to the material. That's like what you get as a procreated offspring from the earthly father. But when you become a creature and an offspring of the heavenly Father, then it's like you too become a creator, and you are born again and reborn, a new creature who has a higher light, a vestment upon you, who can be an effective healer, right? And giver and sharer and sharer of the light, channel of the light. So it's like you are then a child of God, son of God, son of man, child of God. One who creates cannot procreate, but one who procreates can create. So one who creates cannot procreate. So like the creator, God, like we were saying before earlier, has no singular physical body, like anthropomorphized into like one person, where he can say, I'm gonna go have a wife, and then I will marry my wife, and then we will have our child together in a very straightforward human way. That's not gonna happen. It's believed for the most part that Jesus did not have a child, right? But the Son of Men, like we human beings that aren't divine, like we procreate, but we can also activate that part in us that is also divine, and we can become creators, and we can become manifestors and channels for good, and produce fruits of virtue from within ourselves as well. We create our own realities starting from the seed level of our consciousness, right? And the more we are awakened and self-aware and own that, then we can become conscious co-creators of our reality. One who creates cannot procreate, but one who procreates can create. One who creates is said to procreate, but the offspring are really creatures, because these offspring are not children of procreation, but the works of creation, right? So think about that image of one who creates is said to procreate, but the offspring are really creatures. Like what God creates and molds, he calls them his children, but they're not organically, naturally born. They're very intentionally created on purpose. Now think about when we have a thought. If God intentionally planted that thought in our mind, it wouldn't be organic. It wouldn't be our thought. It would be like a brainwashing, like forcing like an automatic robot, right? Like if we could just recall all the Akashic records and have the complete mysteries of the universe to like draw from at any given time, right? We wouldn't have any process of our own. We wouldn't own it. It wouldn't, like, we'd just be sort of like robots, just like the angels, right? But the difference is that, so they call them the children, they call them offspring, but they're really creations. It's really done intentionally and on purpose. Whereas an organically formed human, you don't know what you're going to get, right? You don't build that human. I'm going to put your arm here and I'm going to make your hair this and that there, and put that here. And I'm going to make sure and implant you with these talents. Like you're not, I mean, we could be getting there with technology, but we can't build a bear with a human being unless we are a God creating them with absolute power and control. But if you want a relationship with your child, right, then you have to give them freedom to be who they are. So too, in this physical, literal sense, and in the personality sense, and in the figurative sense, it's like these are all the layers that where you think about it is true. So one who creates is said to procreate, like these are my children, but the offspring, the children, are really creatures because they were created on purpose. But because these offspring are not children of procreation, but works of creation. So when you procreate, though, when you have a child organically, nature takes its course, and then things start growing and shaping and becoming, and organic matter starts growing this unique thing from scratch, this unique creature, this being all of its own, right? And that baby is not a created, planned thing, but it has a life of its own. It's spontaneous. You don't know. You've got the ingredients. You can guess, but you have no idea what you're going to be getting with that person. It's a person. It's a baby. It's a human being. It's going to grow up and to have all kinds of personality aspects and talents and dimensions and complications and all kinds of things, right? So that's the difference between a creation or a creature and a procreation, offspring. It's like organic. So too, think about revelation in your mind. When you Jesus tried this so many times when people weren't getting it, like when he was trying to tell them like, hey, I'm going to be executed. Like this is, and then I'm going to resurrect. It's like he was trying to tell them in metaphorical ways and they weren't getting it. And then he tried to just tell them directly and they still weren't getting it. Until finally it had to dawn on them, each on their own time. The revelation had to come organically on their own. It's what this is saying as well. One who creates is said to procreate, but the offspring are really creatures, because these offspring are not children of procreation. The children of procreation are when you get a revelation about an idea that wasn't just told to you. You're not just regurgitating it. But when you're reading the scripture, for instance, and an insight to you comes from like between the lines, and it wasn't told to you, and you didn't read it in a book, and it wasn't preached to you. It was just like the mysteries of the Torah were revealed to you in that moment by God, right? It's organic. You gave birth to that thought, right? It grew from your own consciousness, right? It grew through you. It wasn't planted there, you know? You weren't told what to think. You came about it by your own free will, right? By the birth, the allowance you had of your own consciousness to expand. And so that's like you're giving birth to something with life in it. One who creates works openly and is visible. So one who creates works openly and is visible. But one who procreates does so secretly and is hidden. For one who procreates is beyond every image. Okay, so let's go back. Let's not get too far ahead. Actually, well, I'm going to read the last. This is like a short bit, and then we'll unpack it. So one who creates works openly and is okay. So one who creates works openly and is visible. One who procreates does so secretly and is hidden. For one who procreates is beyond every image. So then one who creates does so openly, and one who procreates produces offspring secretly. So the one who creates works openly and visibly. So imagine God is like Michelangelo, like chiseling the David. He's the master at work, chiseling in his studio, but let's say his patrons come and see him. He's working openly. He's out in the open. He's creating something. But procreating, like having sex and making a baby, is done behind the scenes. It's not done out in the open. It's not done in a way that's exposed out to where people can see it. So too, when we have those revelations and when we finally grow patience or understanding or compassion or love or kindness where there wasn't any before, it's not a work that's done out in the open, like, I'm going to be nicer, and then it just happens. Or I'm going to be more loving, and I'm going to make a big show of it. That's not how it works. Like, it comes through a process, right? There's pain and reflection and loss and gain, and there's all kinds of things in the human drama that go into our growth and our enlightenment and our revelation. These things, when we procreate, these things that bring life, new life to us, that are organic and grown in secret, and they come from uniting in that bridal chamber with the Creator. It comes from a process. It's not something that people can see on the surface, right? There's so much going on inside, right? You know, at any given time, and people they don't even know the half of it, right? So we don't know the process that each of us arrives at, you know, or that we've gone through to arrive at where we have. One who creates works openly and is visible. And like when God's the creator, right? So when God does works, like, yes, he works in mysterious ways, but his works are visible. His works are huge. They're the universe, they're the earth, they're acts of God in miracle and in destruction. It's like you can see the power of God in natural disasters as well as in miraculous moments. It's awe striking, and it's definitely visible, and it's definitely on display, right? There are ways that God works in hidden ways, and in secret ways, and in mysterious ways, and in hidden ways, but but the works are visible, and they're made very apparent. But our process is not so obvious. And sometimes the works themselves, the creations, it's like, have you grown? Like, you still seem like an asshole. Our process isn't, it's like, it's never gonna, no one can see everything that we've been through as a person for our entire life, except for our guardian angels. They've seen everything, but no one else has witnessed. The work is hidden, the procreation, the connection, your relationship to God. Nobody can see that but you. You might show it and put it on display in a performative way, but it's not, that's not what it's for. And people might see by your example, right? The good works that God has done in you, by your kindness and by your wisdom and by the way that you can share and bless others and share with others and bless them. But yeah, all of that happens like in an intimate, intrinsic place, in the depths of the soul, sometimes even unaware to us, right? Unbeknownst to us, there are things going on in the deep, in the unconscious and the subconscious, and then it starts coming up into our consciousness, All right, let's read this passage one more time and we are out. There is the child of humanity, and there is the child of humanity. The child of humanity is the Lord, and the child of humanity is the one who creates through the child of humanity. The child of humanity received from God the ability to create. He can also procreate. One who has received the ability to create is a creature, and one who has received the ability to procreate is an offspring. One who creates cannot procreate, but one who procreates can create. One who creates is said to procreate, but the offspring are really creatures, because these offspring are not children of procreation, but works of creation. One who creates works openly and is visible. One who procreates does so secretly and is hidden. For one who procreates is beyond every image. Oh, and so the line that says, for one who procreates is beyond every image. What is it when we have an image of something? It's like when we have an idea of something, right? Well, we were talking about earlier, you might have an idea of what your child might be like based on what you can guess, like from your genetics and your personality. But you don't know. You have no idea. It's going to be a surprise, right? It's beyond any image. For one who procreates is beyond every image. And in a way, too, it kind of means that we have like limitless potential, right? We have the potential to go beyond what we can fathom, right? But we only reveal the light that we are able to through our level of consciousness, right? We're eternal spirits and beings on the inside of this. And so we must have an eternal wellspring of potential to draw from, but it just depends on the capacity of the vessel. What can you channel through? What are you capable of? So then one who creates does so openly, and one who procreates produces offspring secretly. And two, that reminds me of when Jesus said, when you give with your right hand, don't let your left hand see it, or don't tell your left hand what your right hand is giving, or whatever. It's like, do it in secret. He said, if you want to pray, go in your closet, pray in secret. It's like over and over again, he makes these points to not do things make a big show of it, right? It's not for your ego to receive gratification and pleasure and feeling good about yourself for doing a good deed or doing what you're supposed to. That completely defeats the purpose or the goodness in the act. It's like it defeats. So there's two kinds of desire: a pure desire and an impure desire. The pure desire is a desire to share and to be a vessel of light for the Creator. But the impure desire is a desire to receive for the self alone. A pure desire can be a desire to receive, but it's a desire to receive for the sake of sharing, right? It's like, hey, let's, I'll be well paid, and because I'm well paid, I can then tithe well and share well and be an influence in the world, right? If I want to receive healing and insight, it's not just to make sure that I'm having more inner peace and fulfillment, but it's so that I can not be an asshole out in the world, but also so I can help other people heal too. It's like up-leveling yourself to help others come up with you, not just to receive for the self alone, like the body consciousness does, like animals, fighting in the wilderness, dog eat dog world, right? We're rising above that. So there is the child of humanity, and there is the child of humanity. The child of humanity is the Lord, and the child of humanity is the one who creates through the child of humanity. The child of humanity received from God the ability to create. He can also procreate. One who has received the ability to create is a creature. And one who has received the ability to procreate is an offspring. One who creates cannot procreate, but one who procreates can create. One who creates is said to procreate, but the offspring are really creatures, because these offspring are not children of procreation, but works of creation. One who creates works openly and is visible. One who procreates does so secretly and is hidden. For one who procreates is beyond every image. So then one who procreates does so openly, and one who procreates produces offspring secretly. All right, y'all, that is all for tonight. We will be back together tomorrow for our weekly energy oracle forecast, where we will take a look at the energy for the week ahead and see what kind of spiritual weather we will be having. All right, peace.